Leveling Up Nation. Once again, welcome to the Leveling Up podcast. I have a great guest here. This is Troy Lavinia. So excited to have him on. We're going to be talking about how to unblock your spiritual operating system. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Troy. He has a wealth of experience as an entrepreneur. He has been an entrepreneur for over 14 years now. He's run a business of over 50 million in revenue, which is absolutely phenomenal. Hundreds of employees. And his journey has been deeply rooted in his spiritual principles. And we're going to tap into that spiritual operating system today and figure out how we can unblock that. Welcome, Troy, onto the Level Up podcast. So excited to have you here. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Brigham. This is great.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to pour into this audience. I'm so excited. So let's first start off. When you talk about a spiritual operating system, I mean, the S.O.S, I love that, your dailysos.com. Tell us a little bit about what that means as far as just a definition, and then let's dive into what that means for us in business.
Sure. Yeah. So I define the spiritual operating system that everyone has as the invisible forces underneath the surface that are really dictating how bright you shine and what your life ends up looking like, what you're projecting out onto the screen of your reality. So it's your connection with that life force, whatever you consider it to be. Some people call it God, some people call it love, some people call it life energy, even intuition would be another name for it for somebody who's more agnostic. But your connection to that, it dictates how brightly you shine. And your subconscious mind, your identity and your belief systems that are programmed into you at a subconscious level. Those are the things that are below the surface that have a tremendous amount of influence on what your life ends up looking like. And that's what those two things would comprise the spiritual operating system, the operating system that's running under the surface for every human.
I think that's a beautiful way to think about it, because every single belief that we have, that connection with God or the spirit, that influences and impacts every decision we make, whether we think about it or not. It's like that iceberg principle. When you're looking at an iceberg under the surface, there's so much depth of feeling and care that goes into each decision. So when you're talking about how you can apply this in business, sometimes you think, oh, business is separate from your spiritual life. How have you been able to see, hey, these are actually something that needs to be in alignment?
Yeah. So there's two metaphors that come to mind that I think are really helpful to think about this. The first is a movie projector. So if you think about yourself as a movie, or your life as a movie in a movie theater, the light behind the projector is like your connection to your higher power, your source of love, life energy, etc. How open are you to feeling love, receiving love, enjoying love and fulfillment and enjoyment? That's actually a setting that you can control through practice. And that dictates how bright your projector is shining, if we're using the movie theater analogy.
I love that analogy. That's great.
And then your subconscious mind, which consists of your beliefs and your identity, like who you believe yourself to be and how you see the world, those are like the slides or the film that's in your movie projector. And then what's displaying on the screen is how your life is playing out. And a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to change the movie by going up to the movie theater screen and drawing on it with a Sharpie. But that's kind of a futile effort. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but it's not much different from that, because if you're not shining brightly, like passionate, loving, open, etc. And you all know people. Think about people in your life who shine bright and people who don't shine bright, and look at the differences in their lives and how easily they're able to accomplish things, how much people want to work with them, etc. All right. So if you're not shining bright and your identity and your belief system isn't in alignment with what you want to see on the screen of your life, of your physical reality, then no amount of writing on the movie theater screen with a Sharpie is going to help you. And so another analogy would be a boat analogy, where the connection with life force, like how bright you're shining, as well as your subconscious mind, your belief system, that's like the current of a river. And if it's heading in the direction that you want it to head, then the stuff that you're doing above the surface consciously, your thoughts, your actions, your activities, etc., the how to and the what to do, is all going to be pretty incidental. All you need to do is stay in the middle of that river, and it's going to take you where you want to go. So those things are both below the surface. That's your subconscious mind, which again consists of your identity and your belief system, your self-image, and your, for lack of a better word, spirituality, or your brightness, how open you are to love and life energy. And the irony for entrepreneurs especially, and I think most creators and leaders, is that we spend 99% of our time focused on the how to and the what to do. And we spend 1% of our time on the shining bright and reprogramming our subconscious mind so that it matches what we want, so that those internal programs match what we want. And what we'd like to do, or what I've noticed, is that it's really can be the other way around. So if you start spending more time on practicing shining bright and feeling good and feeling open to love, that source of love, whatever you call it, and sharing that, and you practice using I am statements and visualizations to change who you are inside, then what you end up projecting and the success that you have really takes care of itself in a lot of ways. And what happens downstream from that in your conscious mind and your body, you don't just do those things and then sit in a cave and hope for the best, but the ideas that come into your awareness and the impulses and the intuition and the activity and who gravitates into your life and who you notice and the opportunities that you take advantage of, those are all going to be as the person that you want to be. And so then it's natural that your life will unfold the way you want it to, and you'll start to see that life appear in reality. I call it the reprogrammed identity domino effect, the ride. So once you reprogram your identity to be who you want to be, assuming you're shining bright, then all the thoughts that you have, the actions you take, the connections you make, and everything that falls into place around you and how others see you starts to be as that new person, and you naturally gravitate to that life of your dreams. And that's what we're doing together every day, because it's an easy thing to forget to do because we're not taught to do it. And you'll probably read 15 books about how to do things in business or life before you'll read one book about how to reprogram your subconscious mind, when in fact, I would bet the latter would have more impact on your success than the former. So that's really where we're at and what we're doing together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's making total sense. I love that. Reprogram. So what was the acronym again? You said it was the reprogrammed
identity domino effect.
Domino effect.
Right? So like
Beautiful.
as soon as you reprogram that identity of who I am a successful entrepreneur. I am, effortlessly enjoying and sharing a vast financial fortune, right? I am a, loving partner and parent. You start to believe these things about yourself, and you start to see these things in yourself, and you start to wire them into your physiology. Then everything downstream from that, all the other dominoes fall into place. So how I see the world, the things I notice, the opportunities I notice, the opportunity to do something with my son or daughter, I see that as an amazing parent, because that's who I believe myself to be. I see a business opportunity or a podcast opportunity. I see that as a successful entrepreneur, right? And then all of a sudden, that domino effect takes place, and how the world sees you And I think that there's a little bit of magic to it, because I think the universe actually will start to conspire in your favor as well. Once you start to believe that, it all falls into place really nice and easy. And the reinforcing irony is that someday somebody will ask you about what caused your success, and you can point to all the things that you did, but those things that you did were incidental. Those were just the opportunities that happened to show up in this big random unfolding. The real reason why you became who you became is because you became that person inside first, and then you noticed all of those opportunities. So if you read all of these books about how to do certain things in business, they can be tricky and difficult because they were so circumstantial, right? This was one person's account of things that were successful for that person or for the people that that person worked with. But really, the success happens because of the change of identity within somebody, as opposed to what they're doing on the outside. I believe, or at least that's what I've seen. That was my
I
experience and
totally get that.
what we're teaching. Yeah.
Yeah, getting very clear on your I am statements. That's something I've heard from multiple coaches from multiple perspectives. But if you aren't clear on who you are and why you are doing certain things, the what doesn't have as much impact. I remember this experience as a missionary. Right before I went on my mission, my mother wrote me a song, and it was called "Let Your Light So Shine." So let your light so shine, share the love you feel. Let it blossom in your smile like a city on a hill. And I love this because when you are willing to let that light shine, it has to come from somewhere. And it doesn't usually come from the outside. It comes from the inside. And choosing to be a disciple, it comes with discipline. It comes with accepting those little micro shifts, little changes. Micro shifts create macro gains. And I think every time you make a shift in your programming, like what you said, to be the very best that you can, then the world will conspire for your favor. I think that was a great way to say that. So thank you, Troy. It illuminated my mind. So that was awesome. Let's go here for just a moment. When you're defining and designing your life, saying this is what follows the I am statement, what have you done in your coaching or in your business to be able to help people say, hey, I'm not what the world thinks I am. I am what I say I am and what I create, and reprogramming. So tell us, what are some of those ways that you've been able to help people actually get into that implementation mode of creating their I am statements?
Yeah. I mean, one thing to note is that I'm not a professional coach. I'm somebody who's done this successfully in their business. I was an entrepreneur for 7 years, focusing on the how to and the what to, and read a couple hundred books about it, and went to Wharton Business School and did everything I thought was correct. And then started to max out in terms of my ability to accumulate wealth, to be successful in business, to grow the business, etc. And then I started reading about your subconscious mind and really doubling down on my spirituality, which is just how bright I shine and how good I feel every day, regardless of what's going on outside of me. And when I started doing that in the 5 years since then, we've had more success than we did before that, much more easily, right? So like you said, we built and sold that company in 18 months, and life has just been a dream since then. And so I'm somebody who's experienced this, who is looking back on my journey and seeing these key inflection points and the things that I've done that I think have really helped me be successful. And it really boils. And now I've been teaching it for 2 years in a group every day. But really it boils down to those things that I've talked about. It's your spirituality, meaning just how open and bright are you, and your subconscious mind, like how much does your identity and belief system, those invisible programs within you, how much do they align with what you really want and what you're trying to do consciously? And so when there's a whole process, it's really a 1 month process that we go through each month together as a group, where you redefine and upgrade yourself slightly each month by choosing a new goal or an intention of growth. Goal can sound kind of scary. That's a loaded word, but there's a slight improvement that your heart wants you to make in your life, whether it's accomplishing something in your business or improving a relationship, improving your health, improving your finances, etc. So you listen to your heart, identify that thing, and then start to visualize it. We have a daily visualization that we do together on Zoom so that
Nice.
we can be consistent with it. And it only takes a week or two to really reprogram your identity to incorporate that new version of yourself or that slight upgrade to your programming that you've chosen for the month. And then for the rest of the month, we help each other stay accountable for doing a little bit of work towards that new self each day,
Mhm.
toward staying consistent with those new I ams and that new vision throughout the day, so that you're not just doing a visualization and then forgetting about it and living the old self. And also, really importantly, identifying all of the old programs that start to come up in the form of insecurity and worry, um, imposter syndrome, etc. Those will start to come up once you start to become that new self, because you've installed new programming. The old programming will come to the surface, and that can look pretty scary if you don't know what it is. And so identifying that and letting it go and surrendering it correctly, letting go of the old programming. So each month we do that with a new goal. And it's kind of like a mini hero's journey each month, where you define something, either external or internal, that you want to get, that you want to accomplish, or you want to improve. And in doing so, you're doubling down on your use of your higher power, of your spirituality, of your improvement of your subconscious mind. You're becoming a bigger, braver, stronger person each month in doing so. And I've been doing that each month for the past 36 months for myself. And it's worked beautifully. And I've been doing it with the daily S.O.S group starting 2 years ago. And there's people who have been doing it, almost every day for the past 2 years. We see it as almost like fitness for your spirit and your subconscious mind, the same way you'd have daily fitness for your body. Um, I think this is something that, as humans discover the importance of this more and more, that daily fitness for your spirit and your subconscious mind is going to be just as important as daily fitness for your body. So I guess to answer your question, it's really getting clarity around what your key areas of life are, getting clarity about what you want to be focused on improving at any given time, and then being consistent in wiring that new identity into yourself with daily visualization, daily surrender of old programs, and really just rerouting throughout the day, almost like a GPS would. So when you have that old program come up and it says, no, you can't do this, or that's not you, then you look at it, you hold it in the light as opposed to suppressing it, and then you let it go and you replace it with that new I am statement. And before you know it, the old stuff goes away because it's not needed anymore. It was old programming that kept you safe, that got you to a certain point in your life. But based on where you're going, you don't need it anymore. And so it's usually more than happy to let itself go out of your system, as long as you're not suppressing it.
Mhm. I think that's a beautiful way to identify those self-limiting beliefs or that previous operating system that isn't serving you anymore. I think of it as almost the stories that you've been telling yourself
Yeah.
for years.
Yeah.
If they're not serving you, if they're no longer serving you, then upgrade the story. I like thinking of stories as versions, not necessarily beliefs, but you say, hey, here's my newest version of the story. Here's my
Yeah.
newest
I love that.
stuff. It's a beautiful way to think about how you update your life, because who you are today is not who you were a month ago or a year ago. And if it is, man, we need to make some changes.
Yeah. I love that. I love the idea of stories, and it's really just a slightly different way of looking at what we're doing, where like for us, we call it our vision or our mental movie. And that's essentially a story that you believe so deeply that it influences everything, how you see everything and how you act on everything. and therefore who you become and what your external life looks like.
Yeah. And it all comes down to that belief system, right? The story that you tell yourself really, it feeds into every single thing that you do and every single thing that you have. Because if you didn't believe that those things were valuable anymore, you would throw them away, or you would get rid of them. You would get them out of your closet. Whatever you have in your life is a direct representation of your belief system. And I have
100%.
this idea that I think would be really helpful when you are talking with someone and they start bringing up old programming or an old story.
Mhm.
What are some of the kind ways you've been able to help them identify as a coach what those previous operating systems, the things that are holding them back, and say, hey, let's
Mhm.
figure out how we can upgrade that thought or upgrade that language, find the new version of yourself. What are some of those tactics that you use?
So with the group, we meet as a group each day,
Mhm.
and 1 week of each month is dedicated to surrender.
Mm.
So understanding and identifying those different things that are coming up. And there's various types of things that come up. So one of them I call the eyes of growth, which are kind of road bumps or blockers that you'll identify. They all begin with the letter I. So like insecurity, imposter syndrome, indecision, etc. And there's like 10 or 13 of them. And so if you start to see those or feel those are typically signs that the old programming is coming to the surface, or that those are the results of old programming, and you can let that go because it's not necessary. Others are limiting beliefs, and we have a limiting belief worksheet that people can work through, where you take a few minutes to fill this out. It asks you certain questions, and the idea is just to kind of excavate any of these old beliefs that are under the surface, just like an archaeologist would. And once you understand where those beliefs are and you start to kind of dust them off and hold them in the light, then it's just a process, a couple of days of holding those in the light. They can usually dissolve them. The interesting thing about limiting beliefs and things that are under the surface is you could spend years in therapy or elsewhere in contemplation trying to figure out the source and the specifics of limiting beliefs and unconscious programming. But you can also work from the top down and just identify areas of your life that don't look the way you would want them to look. And when you start asking some questions about that, just some basic questions, you can start to identify those beliefs, or at least where those beliefs live within your body and what they feel like, which is even more important for the surrender process than what the actual mentalization is of it. And then you can start to let it go just by breathing through it, being with it, handing it over, and replacing it with a more positive emotion. And that can be a 5 or 10 day process, because what you'll find is that those things that are under the surface, once you open yourself up to them and allow your light to shine on them, they typically dissolve, right? Like that old still water or that old stuff doesn't thrive in the light. And that whole process of discovery and healing and reprogramming can be remarkably quick when you focus on the body, asking the right questions, opening up, and holding it all in love and light, as opposed to trying to analyze and understand everything from a mental standpoint. So we have a process each week where we go through doing that, and we have surrender as a part of our daily practice every day that we do together. And if somebody wants to really hone in on a particular limiting belief or a particular area of their life, then we have a limiting belief worksheet that people can get, and do that over a 10-day period. So that's it. And I don't really do much one-on-one coaching, because I did that for the first few months of doing this, and I decided that that's not something that I enjoy. It's not something that I'm particularly good at, and it's also relative to doing something in a group setting. It's not a great business model. It's not super scalable. So I feel like most of the things we do are about self-discovery and providing an environment for people to be consistent with their self-programming and their self-discovery.
I think that's a really simple way to say, hey, when you are working on your business, choose the things that you like and the things that are scalable. Because I mean, you enjoy talking with people, but if you're doing it one-to-one to one-to-one to one, there's only so much time you have in a day.
Totally.
You have as many people as you want on a group session, right? Thousands of people could be on a Zoom.
1000%. Maximize how much time, the percentage of your time you're doing stuff that you enjoy doing. Minimize the percentage of time that you need to be involved with everything that's done in your business. So, if it takes, there's 10 tasks that are required to bring daily S.O.S to its customers and to the people who are using it, I'm only really required for one or two of those tasks, and there are one or two things that I really enjoy. And I've found other people who really enjoy doing the other 8 things. If you do that, you can start to, and we're going into business stuff, but you can really dramatically improve your life and really minimize the amount of time, hard time that you're spending on work, and maximize the joy and impact that you're having with it.
I think that's a really key factor in setting up any business for longevity, is making sure that you're living in your zone of genius. You're saying, this is the things that I not only enjoy doing, but I am the best at. And then the things that you don't enjoy doing, that you're like, you know what, I really don't add as much value in this. I could hire a bookkeeper. I can hire somebody else to do these other tasks that are necessary, but that drain your life force, that drain that spirituality out of you, that you're just like, oh, I don't want to do this. You want to stay open, let that light shine. I think it's a beautiful way to think about that, Troy.
Do you know Gay Hendricks by any chance, or have you read any of his work?
I haven't heard of that person. Go ahead and tell them a little bit.
Gay Hendricks is great, and that's one of the big themes of his work. He's one of the best self-help people that I've ever encountered. And I reached out to him, and he's been a coach of mine for the past 3 years, just because I loved one of his books, The Big Leap.
Oh, I have heard of that one.
It's like in my top 3 required reading for anybody who wants to be successful in life, in addition to like Think and Grow Rich and maybe a couple of others. But it's really phenomenal. So I'd suggest that. And one of the themes is the zone of genius and really maximizing the amount of time that you spend in that. And that's one of the KPIs, or really the only KPI that he had me focus on 3 years ago when I stopped working with him, was just what percentage of your time are you spending feeling great, like really just enjoying life. That doesn't mean not working, because working can be very joyful if you're working on things that you enjoy, but it has to be stuff that you enjoy, or even challenges that are ultimately good challenges that are getting you to the right place.
I think that's a beautiful framework, and something that literally anybody can apply. Like in your key performance indicators, how much time are you spending in your zone of genius?
Yeah.
That's a very simple way to say, well, I'm spending 1 hour a day, or 2 hours a day, or 3 hours a day, or 10 minutes. You're like, oh, well, if it's only 10 minutes, we probably need to make some adjustments to other things prioritizing. So in the last few minutes we have together, what is one of the key things that you would give yourself, as far as like a 10 or 15-year version of yourself before, like a younger version of Troy, that if you could have this one encouragement, or this point of encouragement, it would have shifted so many things for you? What would you tell yourself?
Yeah, there's, one general thing would be just to don't worry so much. You're exactly where you need to be right now. Like this whole thing that I think this whole life and universe that's unfolding for us, we have such a limited view of what's actually happening and how it's all unfolding. Have faith that you're exactly where you need to be right now. You're learning exactly what you need to be learning, and everything is unfolding perfectly for you. And just try to live with that sense of certainty and safety each day, because it can do nothing but help you. So that's one thing. And then the other thing, just really practical thing that I would tell myself or tell anyone to make sure to do is just identify your 5 key areas of life, and spend 5 minutes every morning holding them in mind and sending them love and gratitude from your heart.
Mm.
So for me, it's my spirituality, my health and fitness. It's my creative pursuits, whether it's like my business or whatever I'm creating. It's my wife and kids, and it's my friends and communities that I'm a part of. And if I just spend a couple minutes every morning holding them in mind, even if I'm not a spiritual person, and I just send them love, imagine yourself like holding that thing, that first key area of life in mind in front of you, saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Just like overwhelming it with gratitude. And then I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. Just like you feel like you're giving it a bear hug, and then move on to the second one. You do that for 15 seconds on each of those for maybe 2 or 3 minutes total. That will radically transform your life if you did that for 2 or 3 minutes when you wake up, ideally before you go to bed as well, because 2 things are happening there, 3 things that are happening there. One is you're starting to program what your life looks like. That's your garden. Those things are naturally going to grow and become robust. And 5 is a good number. It's not too many and it's not too few. A lot of people, we don't think about this. And so we spend a ton of time focused on one area of our life. And then even when you accomplish it and you sell that business for $50 million, you figure out that the rest of your garden is barren because of how much time you spent on it. So start at the right place. Figure out what your 5 key areas of life are, and those will start to grow. Second thing you're doing with that is you're practicing feeling love and gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the core emotions that define how open you are and how bright you shine. Because if you're just walking around feeling love and gratitude all day, you're really bright and things are going to work out really well for you. I guarantee it. So the more time you're spending practicing those emotions, the more they become your default settings, right? Your frequency starts to gravitate towards that. That's the second thing you're doing. The third thing you're doing is you're priming your subconscious mind to grow and to think about those 5 things. And so you'll be walking the dog or doing the dishes later, and you'll just naturally have a great idea for something you can do for your spouse, or something you can do with your kid, or something that your business needs that you didn't realize, right? So then you can act on that kind of divine inspiration. So I would say if you could only do one thing in the realm of the stuff that we talked about, define your 5 key areas of life and take 3 minutes every morning to send them love and gratitude from your heart. And do that consistently for the next 3 months and watch how your life unfolds. And there's nothing you could do that will have more influence over what your life looks like 5 to 10 years from now than that.
I love it. That's something that I've been doing for years now. I just call it prayer, but
yeah, that's right. I call it daily prayer as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think anytime that you are consciously focused on the things that do matter to you, and you think about it this way, if you are ungrateful for those things, you start to block them out of your life. But when you start recognizing, oh, I'm so thankful that I have my 4 little kids. I'm so thankful for my wife and the amazing person that she is. And you recognize the beauty of who you are because of all of the wonderful things that are being attracted to you. That gratitude, I love the way that rewires and reprograms us to notice how the blessings are happening. I think sometimes when we get those blessings, if they go unnoticed, it's almost like giving a gift and it just staying under the Christmas tree. But as soon as you open that gift, you have the opportunity to show appreciation.
I love it.
Close that loop with God, and you close that loop with your spiritual side. You're recognizing, oh, here's the gift. Thank you for that. I had a missionary that I was doing exchanges with when I was in Taiwan. And he said, hey, let me buy you lunch. And I was like, oh, no, I don't know about this. That's fine. I can pay for myself. He said, no, let me buy you lunch. I said, okay. I said, here's the reason why. Because if you say no to letting me buy you lunch, who gets the benefit of that gift? Nobody. I don't get to feel good for giving it. You don't get to feel good for receiving it.
Yeah.
So having an open hand to receive, that was one of the biggest lessons that I learned on my mission, that as soon as you're willing to accept, you have to give and take.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Be so
That's
grateful for those things.
so important. We actually spend the 4th week of the month after surrender. Loosely, it's called Open Week, but it's about openness to receive, just because we forget that. But how in the world are you going to get the life of your dreams if you're not willing to just open up and allow it to happen and to feel good about it? And yeah, what you're talking about with gratitude, it's really important. It becomes kind of the foundation on which the next version of that thing grows. But the foundation isn't solid unless you solidify it with gratitude. And it's like building your house on sand versus rock, right?
Yeah. There's a
Anyway,
little
this
primary
is
song.
we could talk about this stuff for forever. This is great, and I'm glad we were able to connect, because it sounds like you have like a really similar views that feel really good to me about how to be building life the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Troy, for your time, for the energy that you put into this. Because I think the only thing that gives time any value is the energy behind it, the spirituality that you put into it. So thanks for filling our whole time with your spirit, with your energy, and the enthusiasm you have for life. Letting that light shine is so beautiful. How do people find you online so that we can make sure we're sending them to the right place?
Sure, they can just go to Daily S.O.S on Instagram or dailysos.com, and they can get a limiting belief buster giveaway that we have, or join our community on School through those routes, and join our daily huddle, which is 30 minutes on Zoom each day. We'd love to have them.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, Troy. Appreciate the time that you put into this. And guys, follow for more value. Continue to stick with us. So grateful to have you. And with that, God bless.